are back again, and we're going to talk about some fun stuff about getting deals done, working remote, and financing all of your deals. So lucky today to have my friend Dan Beaulieu here. He is, well, I'm going to let him introduce himself, but I've known Dan for a while. We've done a couple of deals together. I haven't done a ton of hard money, but he's definitely helped us in our business when we were working just here in the Chattanooga market. So yeah, we're gonna have a good time. We've been chatting a little bit before we popped on here. So Dan, thank you for coming on, man. I sure appreciate it.
Heck yeah, David. Thanks so much for having me. Psyched to be here. Let's do it.
Nice. Well, give everybody just kind of the quick 5 or 10 minute little background on you, kind of where you started. I know, but it's a fascinating story. So it shows that it's people can come to real estate from all different backgrounds.
Yeah, 100%, man. It's been a pretty wild ride. I went to Maritime College, Massachusetts Maritime, and it's because my dad did it, and that's kind of like what I knew growing up.
Yeah,
like he would be gone for 2 months at a time. He'd be home for 2 months at a time, and that's how I grew up, and that's all I ever knew. I thought that was literally the best way to make money. I didn't know anything about business. I didn't know that you could make money in real estate or entrepreneurship or anything. I thought you had to have a job. And since I grew up around that, that's kind of what I, launched into. So did the Maritime College, 4 years, total pain in the ass, military college. What 18-year-old in their right mind decides to go to a military college with like no girls, man? I don't know what I was smoking back then.
Dude, I went to an all boys Catholic high school in Lawrence, Mass. So at the time, it seemed like the right idea. Actually, we did. The girls from St. Mary's came over a lot, so it wasn't horrible. But during the day, it was all dudes for sure.
Yeah. So you know the struggle. Mm-hmm. So with that background, you graduate and you're 22 years old, and you come out with a third mate unlimited tonnage license, and you make 6 figures. Even in 2009, when none of my friends that went to normal colleges could get hired,
right?
We all graduated with great jobs, man. So in that respect, it was pretty awesome.
Yeah, not bad, right?
Yeah, 100%. So, 22 years old, making $100,000 a year, traveling the world. I mean, on liquid natural gas carriers, tugboats, supply boats. I mean, we kind of did it all. But yeah, I mean, went to 42 countries.
Did you really?
A couple of different passports. So, I mean, from that regard, it's pretty awesome. Going to places that people would never think to go to, right? Like
not the tourist area. Yeah, not the tourist area.
No, like shitholes. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't want to say anything bad about any country, but if I had my choice, I wouldn't go back to some of these places.
Right. Yeah, it wasn't the Caribbean, right?
Yeah, 100%. Although we did spend some time in the Caribbean. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
We went to Puerto Rico a bunch. Our run was like China, Puerto Rico, South Africa, and Boston for a while. So
China to Puerto Rico through the canal?
Yeah, we go through the Suez Canal all the time, Singapore Straits all the time, just crazy high traffic shipping areas. A lot of stress.
So were you on mainly the same boat all the time, or like how often did you shift around?
Yeah, so when I did liquid and natural gas carriers, I did LNG carriers for the longest time. Probably I think 4 or 5 years of that was just spent on those with one company.
Yeah.
And I did shift around to a couple different ships during that time, but they're all pretty similar. Some are, 20 years old, some are brand new. But you get the gist of how to, handle it. Basically, they're all about the same.
And not a big crew, right? It's kind of a small crew.
Yeah, no, on those types of tankers, you're looking at, about a 30-man crew.
Okay. Yeah, my son was on a destroyer with like 150 people, so
yes,
not bad, right?
Completely different. Yeah, so eventually I saw that people were making a lot more money in oil and gas in the Gulf of Mexico.
Yeah,
and so I went over to work on supply boats and worked my way up onto the drill ships. And ultimately was working for Transocean, and those will have like 180 people. The floating hotel, just absolutely a ton of people.
It's just got to be pretty crazy below deck.
Yeah.
I mean, I can just imagine what's going on over there.
Yeah, man. I mean, you hear the stories about sailors and, drunken sailors and all this, but that is just not how it is anymore, man.
Really?
Unfortunately. Really? Yeah. I mean, just Exxon Valdez, right? one of the worst disasters in history. And then regulations change, right? So suddenly American flag ships, we can't have alcohol on them anymore, right?
Really?
After that, yeah. So things totally changed after that.
Mm.
And then it was kind of company specific, and some international companies allow partying and
Yeah.
most don't. It's all business all the time. So you're literally out there for like 2 months with a bunch of dudes and can't even have a drink. Yeah, you can get really healthy though.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
can, you can hit the gym really hard. I mean, that aspect was cool, but man, yeah, I mean, the stress and no outlet for it,
Yeah.
whew.
So how old were you when you figured out I don't want to do this anymore?
Yeah, totally. So I was always looking for a way out, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I knew that this was not the life for me. I kind of hated it, to
Really,
be
even from
honest.
the beginning?
Yeah, I mean, I'm working for the man, I'm telling the Filipino guys what to do, but somebody's telling me what to do, right? All the time. You got to be here at 3 a.m. to tie up the ship, and weird hours,
Yeah.
and no control over my schedule. So I knew I wanted to do something on land, and was always kind of interested a little bit in entrepreneurship and business. So I'm out there like reading books. I'm reading Rich Dad Poor Dad, like
Yeah.
I'm like, man, how can I take everything I know and like make money on land somehow, right? And just be home all the time and have a social life.
Right.
So that was always on my mind. And so, I was about 27, 28. And suddenly oil went down to like $30 a barrel.
Yeah. Yeah. When it got super.
And yeah, I was working on drill ships at the time for Transocean, if you remember that. I mean, it was awesome for gas prices,
Yeah.
but me and, maybe 1,000 other people across the whole Gulf of Mexico, we just lost our contracts.
Oh,
We got
really?
laid off.
Yeah.
We're just a number. Captains that had been at the company for 20 years, got a phone call and said, we don't need you anymore. Just like that.
Wow.
You're just a number to us. Just,
Yeah.
go home. And so that's what it's like to be an employee at a huge company, no loyalty or anything like that. You're done. So I got laid off. So I'm hearing it's 2016 and I'm at home. And I'm like, shoot, I've got a mortgage.
Yeah.
I've got bills to pay.
Yes.
I have a very specific set of credentials.
Right.
I have a lifeboat certification. I don't know what I can go do with that.
You work at Carnival Cruise Lines, right? You could be the lifeboat guy.
Yeah, I mean, like just random certifications, very specialized.
Yeah.
And so when you get that specialized, you don't have a ton of options, if your entire industry takes a dump.
Yeah.
Right. So we were just done. Everybody was scrambling, looking for jobs. Nobody was hiring.
Yeah.
And the only skills I have are offshore skills, very specialized. But
You have a very special
thankfully,
set of skills.
yeah, very specialized set of skills. Exactly. But luckily, I had been reading, real estate books the whole time out there and was always interested in that. And so at the time, if you'll recall, Flip or Flop was like,
Yeah. Tarek.
I was like super into it,
Mhm.
Tarek and Christine. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, you know what? That looks fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fun, right? Yeah. So fun.
As those of us who laugh who've done 30 or 40 rehabs, right?
Yeah. Like, the things we learned. But, at the time, yeah, I thought like the whole, demo looked fun and like designing stuff would look like, that's super cool, right? Even though I have no experience doing it, like I can probably just go flip a house and make money, right? It's easy because they do it on TV.
Did it on TV in 30 minutes.
Yeah, and then and they make like $100,000 every time.
Yeah.
Right. Supposedly. So
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, easy peasy. So I'm living in Salt Lake City, Utah at the time.
So how did you go? Were you in Vermont still when you got
No,
out?
no. So I was actually living out there the whole time. I was a ski bum. So
Okay.
how I would have 2 months off at a time.
Oh,
And
okay.
so like I want to live somewhere where I can just like ski every single day. So
Yeah.
I was living out in Utah, just
Nice.
kind of living it up.
Mhm.
That market was great at the time. It was super hot in 2016.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, I'm going to find a real estate agent. I'm just going to go flip a house. Yeah. So, so, so I found a great
Listen,
real
they're
estate
like, why
agent.
that funny? That's what I want to do.
Oh man. I knew, I mean, yeah, I'd read some books, right? But like, I knew absolutely nothing. So like, I call a real estate agent from a sign,
Yeah.
one of her listing signs on a new construction house that I was driving by. I'm like,
Okay.
there's a real estate agent. I'm going to call her. And so I called her and I said, hey, Stacy, are you accepting new clients right now? That's how little I knew. I thought that like real estate agents wouldn't accept me because like they're too full or something, right?
Yeah. I love that she actually answered that. That was,
Yeah, she did answer her phone. I'll give her that. She was actually pretty good. But yeah, I was like, I want to flip a house. Can you start sending me some like, distressed whatever fixer uppers to start making offers on?
yeah.
And so I start, looking through some stuff, and I start throwing out, all these offers where I think it might, be a good deal or whatever.
Yeah.
And this one house comes along. She's like, Dan, you got to buy this one. This one's so awesome. And it was indeed pretty awesome. It was this like
Really?
mid-century modern house, like overlooking the entire valley of Salt Lake City up in this like high-end
Really?
neighborhood. It was sick. I was like, I have to have it, right? Being the rookie I was, this was a very emotional purchase
Yeah.
for me. I was like, that I'm thinking flip or flop, right?
Right.
I'm thinking this is TV worthy. I
Right.
want to I want to be them, right? So I'm buying the most beautiful house. And it
Uh-huh.
was not a good deal numbers wise. I know that now. I would not do that deal today. But
Yeah.
at the time I'm thinking, wow, this is such a beautiful house. And so there's like 10 offers on the thing. And I'm
Uh,
like, I'll beat them, I'll beat all the offers, right? And so I end up paying the most money for the house out of any flipper. And so I get a hard money lender. I just start Googling stuff, calling like who's a good hard money lender. And I found this guy who wasn't a scammer, thankfully.
yeah. Because it's hard.
There's a lot of scammers out there preying on, new investors like myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. So he lends me the money. I
So he did
sold.
your deal and he was okay with it?
He was like, this deal kind of sucks, man. Are you sure? And I was like, yeah, I want to do it. I was
Yeah.
like, I'll make a big down payment because I had saved some cash
Yeah.
from.
You had cash. Yeah.
So I made a huge down payment, like $100,000. Right,
Oh,
it was like
yeah.
all the money I had in the world at the time,
Right.
and
You were that guy's best bet.
100%.
Please
Yeah,
mess it up.
for him it was a great deal.
Yeah.
For me, not so much. And so I was like, okay, now I can't afford any contractors.
Right.
So I'm like kind of out of money, but I got to flip this house. So I start watching YouTube videos on how to do flooring, tile,
Yeah.
different design stuff, how to patch drywall, like how to.
Because you had never done any of this before.
I was not a handy guy at all. On the ships, I was a mate, right? Not an engineer. So like
Yeah.
I stared out the window and drank coffee. So like my dad, he was an engineer, so he was a handy guy. That did not get passed down to me. I do
Yeah.
not have.
Yeah. My dad was too. And I'm handy, but I don't know anything about mechanical stuff. Whereas my brother, on the other hand, can watch a YouTube video and take an engine apart. It's crazy.
Yep.
Hmm.
Yeah, man. So it's like, here's a guy with no handyman skills whatsoever. He's watching YouTube videos and he's going to learn as he goes. And so, I did just that. I would wake up at 6 a.m. I would drive to this property and I would work on it all day.
Yeah.
I found a couple like guys standing outside Home Depot here and there to like help me out, with various things when I could afford it.
Yeah.
Paid him like $12 an hour or whatever. And then, 4 months go by and I'm nearing the end of this thing, man. Like I was really, I did everything and I was really proud of it because I had freaking, I did it myself.
Sure.
And I had learned so much just by doing this one flip myself, right? And learning all the skills on YouTube.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we were at the end of it and I go to sell the property and when my agent walks through and she's like, "Oh my God, I can't believe you did this. This is insane."
Yeah.
And I got like, man, I got 15 offers. Okay. Over my asking price.
So you benefited from the market.
Oh,
100%.
100%. I mean, if my timing had been any different throughout
Yeah.
any sort of history, I would have gotten hosed.
You would have lost 50.
Luckily, the market was so hot for a house like this with this view, updated mid-century modern. I mean, it was clutch, right? So, but look at the numbers. I sold it for I think 530,000, and my total profit on the whole thing, when all said and done, was $35,000. Okay, which is great that I made money. Okay, sick. But I started looking at it. I'm like, wait a second. Okay, so for a $500,000 house,
Yeah.
I spent 4 months on this personally. I worked 12 hours a day on it. What does that work out to? $15 an hour.
Yeah.
So I'm like,
Before taxes. Yeah. Before
I'm
taxes.
like, man, this
Walmart or McDonald's anymore.
So I was like, okay, this was cool. This was a good learning experience, and I had fun. But there's a better way to do this.
Sure.
Right. And so I start diving into, Bigger Pockets podcast, right? And, different gurus and different podcasts at the time, different YouTube videos, ton of books. I'm like trying to learn how I can work on this thing from a higher level and not be involved in actually doing any work myself.
Yeah.
And so that is the key, absolutely, to scaling. And whenever a new borrower calls me looking for a hard money loan and they say, yeah, I'm just going to do the work myself, I cringe, man, because
it's hard. I did it the same way in the beginning. My wife and I, we were married. We moved into the house, fixed it up, sold it, moved again. I mean, we did that over and over and over again. Yeah. It's cool. That's a young kid's game, though. I wouldn't do it today. Like I could, but I wouldn't want to,
Right. I mean, do you think there's merit to it, though? Like, should everybody go through that rite of passage?
I do think you should. And here's why. So that the next time you do hire a contractor, you have a feel for what painting the house costs and the time. When someone's like, yeah, it's $2,000 to replace this water heater. I'm like, bro, come on. Fucking water heater is less than $500 and it literally takes 45 minutes. It takes longer to drain it than it does to hook up the hot, cold, and the power. You know what I mean? So I do think there's some merit in doing it at least once or twice yourself. Same thing with rentals. When we started, my wife and brother, we painted, we cut the grass, we changed out cabinets, we did all the things. And for us in the beginning, we were broke. So we were literally bootstrapping it. But the sooner you can transition over, which was what I didn't do. Like I continued to want to do it myself to save money, which was dumb. And that definitely held us back. So I think there's some merit in it, but as soon as you figure it out, if you want to have a bigger business, then you've got to remove yourself from that.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, that's a great point about people trying to take advantage of new investors. If they don't know what stuff costs, you should at least kind of get a few bids and start learning what stuff costs.
Sure.
At a bare minimum.
We have our 80-something properties are all now with a property manager here in town. Even sometimes I get her bill and I'm like, come on, man, really? $85 an hour to go change out the mailbox? Really? Come on, dude. But it's also I'm able to do this and do work instead of running around doing that stuff too. So
that's a great point. 85 an hour sounds terrible, but like if you're able to work and make a lot more than that at the same time, then that's just what you got to do.
Yeah, that's it. So you make some money. So that's a success, right? I mean, there's a lot of people, I'm sure you've lent money to people that do their deal and lose money, so.
Unfortunately, it does happen.
Yeah.
And there's definitely some things we can discuss for, kind of how to keep new investors from making giant mistakes that, get people into trouble.
Yeah. I mean, I'd love to dive into that a little bit. So I think we talked a little bit, you work for Longhorn.
Yep.
I never get the name right. It's Longhorn Funding,
Longhorn Investments.
Longhorn Investments, right? So Longhorn is a pretty big nationwide. I don't know if they're completely nationwide, but they lend money to investors all over the country. Certainly
10 states we're in.
Yeah, but the biggest ones, right? Texas.
Exactly. The best lending states, let's say.
Yeah. So you're pretty familiar with you're their guy here in Tennessee, and
I am the Tennessee guy.
Yeah. Do you cover just Tennessee, or is it now Georgia now too, or where are y'all at?
Yeah, so we're in 10 different states. Basically, in the southeast
Yeah.
is primarily where we're at. Texas is a huge one, obviously, for us because we're based there.
Right.
And then, of course, we do St. Louis and Kansas City and Missouri.
Right.
We're in Arkansas, Alabama, Georgia, not in Florida because hurricanes and
Yeah.
crazy you know,
Yeah. You can.
insurance problems there.
Yeah.
We're in North Carolina, Illinois, and Ohio.
Wow. Definitely all the big states.
Yep.
So you get to see things from a 40,000 foot view with investors. I know you write a ton of loans. So yeah, what are some of those problems that newer investors like face? And then, kind of the follow up to that be like, what's it like to work with a hard money lender?
Yeah, for sure. Great question. So, the biggest thing that new investors don't consider is their cash reserves.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, flipping houses, renovating houses for Burr, very capital intensive game.
Right.
Things go over budget. You have to make monthly interest payments to your lender. You have to pay your contractor. You have to buy materials. You still have to live your life.
Sure.
Suddenly you break your arm and have a $5,000 bill in the hospital, and you have to make payments to your hard money lender, right? So our cash reserves requirements at Longhorn are pretty loose, honestly. We just need to see 25% of the rehab budget. Personally, I mean, shoot, I would not want to take on a flip unless I had like 40, 50K in the bank, even if I was getting it 100% funded, because things go over budget.
I was going to say, that was my question. Have you ever had one come under budget? No.
I was just telling someone this. I mean, I think I've written over 800 loans at this point in East Tennessee. I've never seen someone come in under budget.
It just doesn't happen.
I never have personally, and people all the time are like, Dan, so like, what if I don't use all the draw funds? I'm like, oh, you're gonna use them.
I'm gonna use them, buddy. Yeah. I'm the worst for that because I'm like so optimistic. Like we can get this done in 4 weeks, and we can do it for 50 grand, and it's 79 grand, and in 12 weeks.
Nobody wants to write in the contingency of I'm gonna go 20% over budget because everyone has the ego that's like, oh, I can, no matter how many we do, you're like, here's what it's gonna cost.
Yeah,
it never does.
I'm 100% with you. I've never come in on the budget that I thought I was going to. And at the end, when I was rehabbing a lot, I would think I was overinflating the budget, and still you just forget stuff. And the way I explain to people rehabbing, it's like kicking dominoes. You never know when you kick that first domino what it's going to do. I had a house in Florida. I was replacing out the kitchen cabinets or the countertops. So it had this old plaster backstop. So I'm like, oh, I'm just going to go home tonight, pull the countertops out. Tomorrow they'll bring the new counters in. Well, as soon as I pulled out the counters, all the plaster started falling all the way around. So I'm at Lowe's at 9 o'clock buying as much plaster as I can. And I'm back there trying to smooth out the walls, and it was a wreck. So it's just weird stuff like that happens that kind of throws you sideways.
It's weird stuff, and I was eating lunch today with a very experienced investor, over 100 deals a year. Okay?
Yeah.
And he's currently losing 70 grand on a deal, on a flip, right? It's like we learn these lessons and these mistakes, and for some reason, these same mistakes, like 5 years later, once you have like tons of confidence and momentum, they tend to pop back up again.
Sure.
You forget the lesson you learned. So you can make the same mistake twice. And that's unfortunate, but we try to remember the ones we've made to hopefully never make them again, but it does happen.
So I know I derailed you a little bit there. So you finished this deal up in Utah, and what's next? What's next for Dan?
Oh man, so yeah, and we can definitely go back on the hard money stuff.
Yeah, I want to definitely.
There are some good lessons for people that have ultimately, unfortunately, failed at flipping, and I almost did a couple times. But yeah, so it was back in Utah. I get connected to my now wife. We start dating, and we get engaged out there in Utah. And she was in residency out there. And so when her residency ended, we had to move, right? And it was kind of right after I finished this flip. So it's like as soon as I start networking and like being confident in the market, then we have to move to a completely different market. And it was Nashville, Tennessee.
Yeah.
right? And that's why we're in Tennessee now. So Nashville, Tennessee. I'm like, okay, I'm a new guy in this market. Who do I know who's flipping? Like, how can I get plugged in here?
Yeah.
So I start going to Real Estate Investors of Nashville meetups, right? The local RIA. And I start handing out cards, introducing myself, whoever I can meet, who's flipping, who's doing what. And so around that time, I saw job posting on Bigger Pockets.
Yeah.
And it was random, man. It was like, hey, are you like looking for some side income in between flips? I was like, yes, I am.
Yes.
Check. Are you good with people and like to go to REI events? Yes, I love doing that too. It's like, do you have sales experience and lending experience? No, but I think I can scrape by on personality. No, I don't know. I was gonna try to weasel my way in somehow.
Yeah.
So I call this guy, and I'm like, "Hey, man, I'm not what you're looking for at all. But I think you should take a chance on me,
Wow.
right? And because I think I can do this and I can learn." And so he's like, "Man, that sounds you sound like a go-getter. We'll fly you to Texas. You can interview, and we'll see how it goes."
Right.
They fly me to Texas. I show up in a suit. Everyone in the office is wearing, casual. Harmony Lending Company, more casual. Didn't know. But yeah, I mean, great interview, went really well. They took a chance on me and they said, okay, now go out and find people to lend hard money to. I was like, okay, I guess
That's
it. Not much training,
Yeah.
they kind of figure it out as you go. But here we are 7 years later, and now the top hard money lender in East Tennessee, loan volume wise. So it's been a ride, man. It's been a ride. Absolutely. But yeah, we're in Knoxville now. We've bounced around. We bounced around a little bit more up to Vermont, back here to Knoxville. So it's been kind of crazy. Hopefully we're here to stay.
Yeah. Well, I know you're by far and away the number one lender here in Chattanooga. Every time there's a post, somebody, your name's the only one that really gets bantered around there.
Love to hear it, man. It means I'm doing my job, so I'm psyched on that.
So, what about your flipping business? How did that continue to evolve?
Yeah, so I did a few in Nashville, and that was fun. And now I was connected to Longhorn Investments, so I was like, okay, I'll just use their money. I don't have to pay myself any commission, so I can actually get it for a discount, which is nice. So I did a few flips in Nashville. They weren't great. I was still learning a lot more. And I was learning from now, the best people in the industry while I'm trying to, learn their business and hopefully do some loans for them, ultimately seeing how they structure their business and how they do everything. So we had to move to Vermont. I took the lessons that I had learned in Nashville, which is a super saturated market.
Yeah.
Tons of investment activity, people doing, PPC, text message campaigns, SEO, right? I moved to Burlington, Vermont, and no one had ever heard of an assignment contract before. Like,
bro, when I came to Chattanooga, that's what it was like.
Really?
In 2009, we were the first full-time wholesalers. Like, I couldn't find a title company that understood what assignment of contracts are. Like, they didn't. So, I'm sure you've seen this contract, that one-page contract that floats around every place. I created that, because I would call these buyers, hey man, yeah, I'm like, yeah, it's an assignment of contract. Boy, what's an assignment of contract? I don't know what you're talking about. The hillbillies in Chattanooga, they had no idea, these guys, right? They was just used to buying either direct or from an agent. So I created that separate contract that, it looks like an assignment. It kind of is an assignment, but it says it's a purchase and sale agreement. But I 100% get it.
Yeah. So you know the struggle. Like, I had to find an attorney that was okay with it because, it made sense to him once I explained it. But I took, the marketing activities that were working in Nashville, and I quickly became number one in Google up there. That was no one else was doing it. Right. So now we just get like a ton of off-market leads that contact me directly from Google. How do I sell my house fast? Whatever. So we don't spend a lot of marketing up there, but get really, really good deals now. Like extreme motivation from the sellers. deep pain.
Yeah.
And since no one else is doing it, I can actually feel like I'm helping them. Like I'm literally their only option, which is really cool.
Yeah.
You know? So yeah, we have a team up there now, project manager, acquisitions person that goes out and negotiates on my behalf.
Right.
You know, another me, basically 2 me's, I guess, up there.
Yeah.
So you know, we flip houses. We don't see them most of the time. We do everything.
Really?
Yeah,
Oh, wow. That's
absolutely.
that's something I've never done. That seems a little scary.
It's scary. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah, it's very scary.
The only experience I have with that is I bought a house from auction.com or something. It was occupied. So it was on Mayfair Road or street here in town. So I drove by it. I'm like, new windows, new siding. I could clearly see it was rehab, bought by a rehabber, flipped like 4 years before. So I'm like, what could be wrong?
It's got to be perfect, right?
Got to be perfect, right?
Yeah.
So I bid on it. Dude, I got those guys out of there and they had like painted paneling. And I, again, started pulling the paneling. All the plaster came down. Dude, it got so bad with my lender. Like I normally post pictures of my deals. If you go back to this house on Mayfair and my Facebook, there's like day 1 and then day 42. Like I skipped the whole thing because I got every floor joist had to come out. All the way down to the studs. It was terrible, you know. So my experience of sight unseen wasn't that great.
Yikes. Yeah. And I mean, you know, I had tried to sort of do it while living in Nashville and flipping in Chattanooga.
Yeah.
And so I was only going there like once a month. So
Right.
sort of long distance, but not really. I was still
Yeah.
checking on it. But I lost a lot of money on that deal because I wasn't checking on it enough.
Right.
I didn't have a good team in place already that I could trust
Right.
and who could send me, you know, daily updates and photos and stuff. That's super important. Long distance REI. If you don't have, you know, people on the ground you can truly trust that are part of your team, then don't even bother because you can lose your shirt.
That's the secret.
That's 100% the secret.
And there are apps now where they can give you photos and descriptions and you know,
exactly
type apps.
So you need to know market specific what to look for, right? In Vermont, it's a lot of like old block foundations and leaky basements.
Right.
There's some houses you can go in the basement and stick your finger through the joist because it's so rotten, right? In Tennessee, it's termites, right? And so as long as your person knows to go out there and take the right photos up close and touch everything and show you the dates on mechanicals, then we've had good success with it.
Nice. Nice. What's the best deal you've ever done?
Oh man, so it was pretty recently actually.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was here in Knoxville, Tennessee, and this took place this fall.
Okay.
And so so we successfully wholesaled a $10.5 million apartment building.
Wow.
And so after months of hard work, though, the deal almost blew up in our face on the day of closing. And we got extorted for $500,000. And so here's kind of how that all went down. It's crazy. So I got the deal ultimately from my friend Nick, who had a good relationship with the seller. Because he had bought some houses from this guy. This guy owned single family, multifamily.
Nick from Chattanooga, or used to be in Chattanooga?
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah.
That's the guy. Yep, my buddy Nick. And he brought me into the deal as a GP. Yeah, he, you know, because I'm here in Knoxville, I was going to be boots on the ground. I was going to be that partner that managed the construction and everything.
Right.
So I was their key, like boots on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And so we go to the apartment complex to meet the seller. And there's a car parked outside of the main office.
Mm-hmm.
And it's got this like ridiculous 18-inch sticker of Donald Trump's face on this car, right? And we're like, that's got to be the seller's car.
Yeah.
And it was like peeking out the window, like kind of like waving. Like, so classic. So like immediately we're thinking, okay, we need to build rapport with the seller to get a good deal, right? Of course. So what are we going to talk about going in? Well, guns, obviously, right?
Guns and border wall and
border wall. Yeah,
I mean, it's not hard to hit. You know what to talk about, right?
We knew exactly what to talk about. So we go in and we started talking about guns. And luckily, Nick was in the Marine Corps, so he knew a lot more than me. So he was speaking on that. And, we start talking about different types of ammunitions stuff. Like, okay, the seller's favorite ammunition is 7.62 NATO. And
Okay.
so we start.
Wildly specific, but okay.
Yeah, right. So we, 10 minutes later of tangents and all that, we end up on a purchase price of 7.62 million. Like maybe there was some subliminal
Yeah.
thought going on there. So that's where we ended up, which was great. Because ultimately he said originally he wanted 8 million, but got it down to 7.62.
Nice.
And so we start conducting like months of due diligence, inspections, all that stuff. We start raising capital for a syndication, getting all that together. Once we start reaching out to potential investors, it turns out that some of them were just like, hey, let me just buy it from you right now. I'll give you over $10 million right now. We're like, oh my God, like,
wow.
Well, like, is this really what we have? Because like our projections said that we were going to make maybe $3.5 million in 3 years. Like, we're going to almost make that in 1 day.
Wow.
If we wholesale this thing. So we're like, oh, heck yeah. Like, let's just wholesale this thing, because velocity of capital, right? We got to have that money and turn it into more money. And so, basically we have to double close it, right? You can't really assign the $2.8 million, assignment fee. So we're like, okay, so
once you get over 100,000, you should probably get closing, right?
Think about double closing. Yeah, that's a good point. Over 100,000. So this was going to be 2.8 million. So we're like, okay, where can we get $8 million and close this thing? And so luckily, worked for Longhorn Investments, backed by a huge fund. And so I called my CEO. I said, hey, can I borrow $8 million for a day? I'll give you 2%. He said, okay, no problem. That sounds great. I was like, oh, okay, that was easy.
Easier than I thought it was going to be, right?
Way easier than I thought. Yeah.
Dan, 50 grand. Come on, man.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's the stuff they would rather do, right? That's easy money. So yeah, I mean, the title company, unfortunately, they do a search the day before closing, like a last minute title search.
Updated
title was already done.
Yeah.
They did a last minute search the day before closing. And it turns out that an original buyer we had on the contract, okay, his contract expired, and so we signed it with another buyer.
Yeah.
The original buyer had filed a lis pendens. Okay, so we're like, oh, shoot. Last minute, like, what are we going to do? This has to go away, right? Yeah. And so his argument was that we acted in bad faith by not extending the contract, which I think is, okay.
Nonsense. Yeah.
Nonsense. But the seller finds out about the whole thing. And the thought of us to him not being the end buyers, it puts a bad taste in his mouth.
Yeah.
Okay? And he says he will not extend the deal for us. We have to close. And so we're about to lose a $2.8 million profit. The stress of thinking about this right now is making me go back to these people.
Dude, I get it. Yeah. I lost one for 105,000 recently. That makes me twitchy. So I can't imagine.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. It was okay. So it was for $500,000. Okay. The lis pendens. He demanded that we pay him $500,000 to make the thing go away so that we could close. So our only option is to wire this guy $500,000
ahead of time.
Right? The day before closing to just make this thing go away as fast as possible. And so that's what we had to do.
So was there any guarantee that he was going to release it?
That was the paper that we signed. It said if we pay you this, and the attorney was his middleman, we'll pay you this, it's going to go away. I met the attorney at the county building to make sure it was recorded, ASAP to make that thing go away.
Yeah.
Whew. And so, okay, that was close. $500,000 flushed down the toilet, right? That was crazy. So another problem we had, though, one of my partners decided to use a national title company, not a local one. So you don't use a national title company when you're trying to do a wholesale transaction, double close, just a complete mess, right? Because on On closing day, I had to be the one to go record the front side deed. Otherwise, it was going to take them an entire week to record the deed.
Right.
Right. And that can't happen when you're trying to close,
No.
buy and sell in the same
Right.
day. Right. And so the seller was signing with a mobile notary at the apartment building. So I go there and I'm supposed to grab the deed from the seller as soon as he signs it, drive it down to the courthouse and record it. He refuses to release it to me because he still thinks we're scam artists.
Because he doesn't have his money.
So he will not release it to me before the wire hits his account.
Okay.
You know, he thinks we're running a scam on him. He doesn't have his money yet, right? So now we're on the hook for $8 million because he has to see it in his account before releasing the deed. It's like chicken before the egg.
Right. Which again, you know, he's the least bad guy in this, but you know, I get it.
He's the best guy in this, 100%.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I get it.
100%. But yeah, so the wire, you know, it was towards the end of the day. The wire wasn't going to hit that day anyways. So, you know, I told the seller, don't release the deed to the mobile notary right now. You go home, you keep it right now, and you should have
let it get in transit someplace, right?
100%.
Yeah. You
should have the wire in the morning. Like, okay. So I leave. Absolutely no sleep that night.
Yeah.
So the wire hits his account in the morning. Thankfully, he meets me at the courthouse and he hands me the deed to go record. He shakes my hand. He says, I'm sorry I doubted you. You're a man of your word. Good luck and God bless. So the back end closes in funds. I run back to the courthouse to record the back end deed.
Right.
So it could all be signed, sealed, delivered, you know, and return Longhorn's funds in the same day. So total profit now $2.3 million.
Yeah.
And so, you know what my favorite part of the whole deal was, though?
I hear it.
When I went back to the courthouse to record the backside deed, the very nice ladies at the county clerk, they look at the paper I was handing them, and they see that I had bought a building earlier that day for $7.62 million, and I sold it that same day for $10.5 million. The expression on their faces
couldn't comprehend
what just happened. I think, you know, I probably made them rethink their entire, you know, outlook on the world.
Now they think you're a scammer too.
Right. It's like they just realized like what is possible, and wait, there's better ways to do life than waking up every day and working a job that you hate.
Right.
And I am living proof of that.
Yeah. You know, and it's interesting, you know, I like you, I'm in a lot of Facebook groups and all this, and you hear people say like everybody should be an entrepreneur. You're stupid if you go to school. But I don't know that everybody's built for it, Dan. I don't know that everybody could have gone through that deal alone and figured out all the parts and pieces. And, you know, just, I don't know that most people can do it. Some people are just happy with their 9-to-5 job. And, you know, I think the thing about us that makes us entrepreneurs and business owners is we're a little broken, right? Our brains are a little bit fucking miswired, right? Like for sure, like, because the thing that makes you successful is awesome, but it's also a short circuit in other parts of your life.
I 100% agree with that, man. Yeah. I mean, you know, there's something to be said for comfort, you know, and that's great. Yeah. I look at that as higher risk. You know, you have one source of income. Most people don't see it that way. My hair, I mean, I'm in my mid 30s, is falling out, you know, like way too early.
Yeah.
You know? It's just how it is, man. The stress of the whole thing, but it's fun. It's dynamic. You know?
I couldn't imagine doing anything else. You know?
Absolutely.
As I get older, people are like, are you going to ever retire? I'm like, to do what? Like, to do what? Like, I don't know what else.
That question. Yeah. Retire and do what? Yeah. This is the game, man.
This is it. All I want to do, Dan, is like, because I'm at a point where we could certainly retire, but like, I want to do business deals with my friends and people that I love, and like, everybody rich. You know, that's the goal for me.
I love it.
You know, I mean, you've got to, I mean, you know, you don't have to have $1 billion. Everybody thinks you need $1 billion. Dude, you have a few million, 10 million, 11 million, you're good.
Yeah,
you're good. You're really, the difference between somebody who has 10 million and $1 billion is not that big a difference.
Right.
You know, maybe you own the jet instead of chartering it. I mean, it's not that big of a difference of a lifestyle, though. You know.
Yeah, it's so true.
Yeah. So cool. So you're in Knoxville now,
Yes, sir.
still doing deals. I saw Hayden was up there the other day. You guys, the guy that runs the Chattanooga group here, you guys were doing a little walkthrough, or was that down here?
Yeah, Hayden's the man. I can't say enough
He's such a
good
good
things
kid,
about
man.
that kid. My God,
I met him, I don't know, somewhere in the country where I was at this event speaking, doing something. He's like, "Hey man, I'm from Chattanooga." I'm like, because he's such a young kid, so just kind of happy go lucky. I'm like, that's awesome, man. I'd love to meet up with you. And here he's gone and created this great RIA group, and getting like 200 people out there. He's doing a great job.
I mean, I've been to a lot of REI meetups over the last 7 years.
Yeah,
His new meetup in Chattanooga that he's made from scratch
yeah,
suddenly is the best I've ever been to. It is
yeah,
sick. The
yeah,
space is sick. Everything he's doing is sick.
yeah. The
And so,
location's good. It's I mean, we've had some at our office here, but never did we have 200 people. So
yeah,
absolutely
yeah,
good.
it's impressive, man. It's impressive.
Yeah,
But yeah, I mean, his angle, and this is for all new real estate investors listening to this. His angle is kind of brilliant. Like if you don't have a lot of money, but you have a lot of time,
yep,
maybe you just go around introducing people, see how you can add value to their business,
right,
right? And they will ultimately see something in you and maybe bring you into their deal and give you a little piece of it.
sure,
And that's exactly what I did with Hayden. I bought a
yeah,
self-storage facility. I gave him 10% equity in it. He
really,
managed it for me.
hmm,
I have money, he has time, right? So like it was a perfect relationship, right? That's exactly what new investors can do to get started and just get little pieces of equity in the bigger stuff.
yeah. And so two things. I always tell people, you have time or money. It's like kind of like the scales of justice, right? If you have time but no money, well, you're gonna have to bootstrap it, right? If you have money but no time, well, then you can outsource everything, from the word go. But one thing that I've, because I've been in Chattanooga here so long, is I've had so many investors show up at my office and be like, I went to this event and they said go find a very experienced wholesaler or investor, whatever, take them out to dinner or buy coffee or buy them lunch, and pick their brain. I'm like, yeah, man, that's cool. Even if we went to Ruth Chris for 150 bucks, that's not a good exchange of value for 2 hours of my time. It's just
No,
not. So what kind of value can you bring?
100%.
I used
Yeah.
to tell people all the time, bro, you got a pad of paper? Go write down 100 addresses and come back. Right? 100 vacant houses, do some driving for dollars, come back, and then we'll do the next thing. So I like what Hayden does, and that would be my suggestion to new people that are listening. If you want to get the attention of bigger investors like Dan, to like bring some value, right? Bring a deal. What can you do? Fuck, if you can't do anything else, you can wash a car and walk dogs, right? And I know that's an extreme example, but there's always something you could do to add value.
I'm so happy you said that because yes, an investor can buy their own freaking lunch, right? And so
Yeah,
one kid, I said, I don't need lunch. I need my car washed.
yeah,
And so he did. He
that's hilarious.
detailed my whole freaking car. It
Did
took
he
him
really?
hours. And
Yeah,
so I gave him my time, and I trained him up. And he ultimately brought me a deal. And he made 15 grand on the assignment fee for that deal.
yeah. So you'll appreciate this. So in all the years that I've been doing this, and I used to have a smaller office, like where you could actually come in the front door and get right to me. Now you got to go through like two locked doors and a couple people to get to me. But easy 100 people, Dan, have come into my office, sat in the chair. I want to be like you. I want to do all these things. I'm like, I don't know that you want to be like me, but I get it. You want to do real estate. So literally go put out some bandit signs for me, or go write down, come back with 100 addresses. 3 people have done it. You know who the most successful one of those 3 is? Justin Huggins. Shocking, right?
Wow.
Look at him now.
Amazing.
Yeah, one of the most successful investors in town. His portfolio, makes mine. I tell him all the time, I'd throw my money away if I had his. And he runs the biggest title company, or one of the biggest title companies in town.
I had no idea that's how he got. That's so
That's
funny.
how he got started. He was in the fraternity, and had no money, and I helped him through college. He started out just doing side jobs for us, like putting out bandit signs, and he'd get all his fraternity brothers, like we'd send them over to clean out houses, and we were wholesaling. And after a while, I'm like, bro, I just need someone to do acquisitions calls for me. Let's partner up, and we'll do a split, and I'll pay for the marketing and do dispo. You do the acquisitions calls. So that's how Justin got started.
How cool is that, man? It's so
Awesome.
fun to watch someone like, especially that you've taken under your wing, and just like what they're doing 5 years later is I love it, man.
I'll tell you, and him and Justin, I'm so proud of them.
Yeah.
They're just absolute fucking
They're rock
rocks.
stars,
Yeah.
bro.
Yeah, yeah, they really are. Well, cool, man. I know I've held you a lot longer than we had anticipated, but so hard money. If you're in like people that are looking for hard money loans, in what areas and where, what's the best way for them to get a hold of you?
Yeah, 100%. So, if you're looking for a mentor and, potentially funding for your deals, you can get a hold of me by going to longhorninvestments.com. You can follow me on Instagram at Dan the Hard Money Man.
I
You
love
can
it.
find me on Facebook. There's, several ways you can reach out to David Olds. He'll send you my cell phone
Yeah,
number.
yeah,
There's a bunch of good ways to get in touch with me. But, I'm happy to discuss a deal with everybody. I'll tell you if your deal sucks or if it's good. I'll
yeah.
tell you if it looks like my first deal or, later ones.
Yeah, that's what I've always been told is, a hard money lender or a private money lender, they'll review your deal, and if it's not a good deal, don't do it. Like, because those guys don't want to lose money either, and they can look at it pretty objectively.
100%. People get attached to their deals. They get
Oh,
about them, so they don't want to hear it. But if your hard money lender tells you that it's not a good deal, then just walk away from it.
yeah, it's okay.
Seen a lot
Yeah,
of deals.
you can't put the round peg in every square hole, right? There are going to be deals that work and some deals that don't, and sometimes it's okay, even if you want to help the seller. Just sometimes you're just not the right solution for them.
100%.
So, well, cool, man. Everybody in the notes here underneath, I'll make sure I put at least Dan's email and how you can contact him. I will not put his cell phone number in there, but definitely reach out to him if you're looking for hard money in the state of Tennessee. I'm telling you, he is the guy. Funds, like you said, over 800 deals in the last couple of years. So he's legit. And if you've got a deal, he'll get it closed.
Heck yeah.
Cool. Dan, thank you so much for coming on, man. I appreciate it. I'll see you probably in a couple of weeks at the what is it, the Southeast Best meetup? Is that what
Southeast Best Real Estate Meetup. Yes, sir. That's what he's calling it. I'll see you there.
Cool. Well, if you guys are in Chattanooga, look it up, and we'll both be there. Dan, thank you so much, man. Have a great afternoon.
You too. Thanks, David.